Wow. This is one of those stories, that it just gets to you.
Yeah.
We're diving into what's happening right now over in Valencia, Spain. They're
Hmm.
being hit by something called a Dana, which I
Right.
guess basically is like a weather system on overdrive, just
Yeah.
dumping a crazy amount of rain.
Huge amounts of rain, yeah.
And we've got a live feed coming in from Il País,
Oh, wow.
which is one of Spain's, I think, biggest newspapers.
Yeah, one of the major ones for sure.
So, we're getting updates minute by minute.
So it's a front row seat
Yeah.
to a natural disaster
Yeah.
in real time.
It's intense and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I mean, the images coming out of Valencia are just devastating.
It's really hard to look at.
Streets that have turned into like raging rivers,
Yeah.
cars just being swept away like they're nothing.
It's incredible, the force of the water.
And Il País is reporting on collapsed buildings.
Wow.
People trapped on rooftops, clinging to their cars.
My gosh.
It's just terrifying.
And the human cost is already so high.
Yeah.
The latest numbers we have, and these are changing constantly.
I know, it's hard to even...
But at least 51 deaths in Valencia alone.
Gosh.
Another in Cuenca, and 6 people still missing in Albacete.
It's hard to even comprehend,
It really is.
numbers that big, but...
And that's just the beginning.
Right.
I mean, 155,000 homes without power, communication networks down,
Wow.
transportation paralyzed. It's just a complete crisis.
Well, El Paris is doing a good job, I think, of giving us the,
Yeah.
the smaller...
Human level details.
human details
Yeah.
that kind of, make it hit home.
You make it real.
They mentioned that the Ministry of Defense is sending portable morgues.
Gosh,
I mean,
that's heavy.
that sends chills down your spine.
Yeah.
And there's a story about an Air Force corporal who lost both of his parents to the flood.
It's those kinds of stories,
Yeah.
that really cut through the statistics and make you feel the weight of it. We can talk about 51 deaths, but
Okay.
each one of those is a person with a family,
Yeah.
with a story.
And what gets me is that it sounds like the storm was even worse than anyone expected.
Oh, sure.
They had a red alert issued,
Wow.
but the actual rainfall was much heavier than predicted,
So the flooding is even worse.
which means the flooding is just that much more catastrophic.
Yeah, that raises a lot of questions
Yeah.
about preparedness, especially with climate change.
Yeah.
We're going to see more and more of these extreme events.
Yeah.
Disasters often bring out the best in people.
Yeah. That's a good point.
E.L. Pacius is highlighting some incredible stories,
Yeah.
acts of bravery, compassion.
Mm-hmm.
This truck driver who went out of his way to rescue 2 workers who were trapped.
Oh, wow.
People opening their homes to strangers.
Wow.
Emergency responders who are dealing with their own personal losses,
Gosh.
still out there helping others.
It's really inspiring.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It makes you think about the strength of the human spirit.
It does.
Absolutely.
And of course, there's a political angle to all this.
Sure.
The magnitude of this disaster
Yeah.
has started a debate about whether Valencia was prepared enough.
I can imagine.
And government sessions have been completely suspended
Wow.
while officials are focusing on the crisis.
So everything's on hold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're seeing quotes from top political figures.
Yeah.
Like Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez
Right.
and Emiliano Garcia Page, who's the president of Castilla-La Mancha.
Both expressing deep concern, promising to support the affected areas.
So it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
how this shapes the political discourse
Totally.
around disaster response and climate change.
Yeah, but for now, I mean,
Yeah.
the immediate priority is
Yeah.
getting people to safety,
Right.
providing aid.
Yeah.
E.L. Pages points out that rescue teams are facing huge hurdles.
I bet.
Roads are impassable.
Yeah.
Communication lines are down in many areas.
Makes it tough.
Yeah, it's a race against time.
That's where these real-time updates are so important.
Yeah.
Staying informed as things unfold.
Right.
Helps us understand the challenges, the needs, how we can help.
Right. So let's take a look at some of the individual stories that are emerging from all of this.
Okay.
One that really stood out to me was about Beatrice Carrodo.
Mhm.
She survived being trapped on a flooded highway for 7 hours.
Oh, my God.
Can you even imagine?
I can't even imagine.
7 hours.
Wow.
Her story is so powerful because it just puts you right there in that moment
Yeah.
of terror
Yeah.
and uncertainty.
The water rising around you,
Yeah.
trapped in your car.
Yeah.
No idea if you're going to be swept away
Right.
or if anyone knows where you are.
Yeah.
It's a visceral experience.
Totally.
And Beatrice's story is not unique,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
ALL Pius also features Mom and Poveda.
Okay.
the mayor of a small town.
Yeah.
She got stranded away from her family during the storm.
Oh, gosh.
And, they paint this picture of her
Yeah.
waiting anxiously, not knowing if they're safe,
Oh, wow.
worrying about her entire community.
It really hits you thinking about all those families that are separated.
Yeah.
The fear, the not knowing.
And then you've got this social media user,
Right.
Ralph for president,
Right.
posting these updates.
Right. It's almost apocalyptic.
Almost apocalyptic.
They're talking about teachers trapped at a school.
Yeah.
Families scattered.
Those really harrowing stories of survival.
That-
Those firsthand accounts
Yeah.
just cut through all the noise.
Totally.
Remind you that this isn't just a news story.
Yeah.
These are real people.
Yeah.
Whose lives have just been completely upended.
Mother Nature doesn't play favorites.
She does not.
This kind of disaster
Nope.
affects everyone in its path.
Absolutely.
But what's amazing is
Yeah.
you see the spirit of these people.
The Valencian people, yeah.
Yeah.
Their strength,
Yeah.
their determination
It's amazing.
to help each other,
Yeah.
to rebuild.
Yeah.
It really speaks volumes about
Yeah.
the power of community,
Right.
the human ability to overcome.
Well, thinking about these intense storms,
Yeah.
the Mediterranean is warming up, right?
It is, yeah.
Scientists are saying that's going to make events like this, Dana,
Right.
more frequent.
More likely, for sure.
What does that mean
Yeah.
for Valencia?
That's a great question.
Other coastal regions?
Yeah. This is where
In the long run.
we have to start thinking long term.
Yeah.
It's a wake-up call for coastal regions.
Yeah.
Really around the world.
Right. They're on the front lines of this.
Because they're on the front lines.
So what can they do?
Well, I think first off,
What are some concrete steps?
we need to be investing in resilient infrastructure.
Okay.
That means flood defenses
Okay.
can actually hold up
Right.
against these intense storms.
Mm-hmm.
Early warning systems
Okay.
to give people time to react.
Right.
Transportation networks that can handle disruption.
That makes sense. And I imagine urban planning has to play a big part in this too, right?
Huge.
Designing cities that are better equipped to handle heavy rainfall flooding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to rethink how we develop these areas.
Okay.
That could mean things like using permeable surfaces
Yeah.
that absorb water
Right.
instead of letting it run off.
Yeah.
Incorporating more green spaces,
Mm-hmm.
stricter building codes
Right.
that prioritize resilience.
So it's not just about the concrete and the steel.
It's not just about the concrete and the steel.
not how we design our cities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the human side of things.
Right.
Building community resilience.
What does that look like?
Strong social networks,
Yeah.
community preparedness programs,
Mhm.
communication channels that work even when the power's out.
Okay.
You need those things in place
Yeah.
so that people can access information, support each other,
Right.
and get help when they need it most.
Well, this disaster has obviously sparked a lot of debate about Valencia's emergency preparedness.
Yeah.
What are some key lessons that we can learn
Yeah. One big takeaway
from what happened there?
is accurate real-time forecasting.
Yeah?
They had a red alert,
Right.
but the rainfall was worse than predicted,
Right.
which may have impacted the response.
Right. So we need to invest in better forecasting technology.
We need better forecasting
And make sure that that the forecasts are communicated clearly.
and in a way that people take seriously.
Right. It's like
Yeah.
if the alarm bells are ringing all the time,
Right. Exactly.
people are going to stop paying attention.
Exactly. You got to use those warning systems strategically.
Yeah.
Educate the public about what they mean.
Right.
Another key area is communication.
Okay.
During the crisis,
Right.
people need clear, consistent information
Mm.
that includes updates on the situation,
Yeah.
coordination of rescue efforts,
Right.
getting the word out about resources.
Well, and E.L. Payas mentioned that the
Yeah.
disrupted communication lines were a huge problem.
Oh, yeah.
That makes everything harder.
It makes everything harder.
Yeah.
And it highlights the need for backup communication
Right.
that works when the main networks are down.
Right.
Satellite phones,
Mm.
ham radios,
Yeah.
even low-tech solutions like community bulletin boards.
Right. Like a plan B.
Yeah, you need a plan B, maybe even a plan C.
So it's about redundancy, having multiple layers
Redundancy, exactly.
of safety nets in place.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a lot we can learn from this,
A lot to learn.
both about how to respond
Yeah,
and how to plan for the future.
yeah.
But ultimately, the goal is to prevent something like this
Exactly.
from happening again.
This needs to be a catalyst for action.
Right.
Investing in resilience.
Yeah.
Adapting to a changing climate.
Right.
Putting the well-being of our communities front and center.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked a lot about the big picture.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back down
Okay.
to those personal stories that
Yeah.
are coming out of Valencia.
Yeah, for sure.
We talked about Beatrice Garote
Uh-huh.
and her terrifying experience on the highway,
Yeah.
Mayor Poveda's worry for her community.
Yeah.
But the one that really sticks with me
Yeah.
is Ralph for president
Oh, yeah.
and social media.
Their posts are so raw and immediate.
It really feels like
Yeah.
you're right there with them,
Yeah.
experiencing the chaos
Yeah, the fear.
and the fear firsthand. They were describing their town, Benefio,
Yeah.
as almost apocalyptic.
It's wild.
They talked about teachers having to sleep on the roof of a school
Oh, wow.
because it was the only safe place.
It's incredible.
What gets me about that account is
Yeah.
the sense of isolation.
Oh, totally.
They mentioned not having power,
Yeah.
not being able to get news
Right.
from the outside world.
The outside world.
That just adds another layer
Yeah.
of anxiety on
Yeah.
top of an already terrifying situation.
Imagine being surrounded by floodwaters,
Right.
cut off,
Not knowing
not knowing what's happening.
if help is coming.
It's scary.
Yeah, it gives you chills just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize how important
Yeah.
those strong community connections are
Oh, for sure.
during a disaster.
It's not just about physical infrastructure.
Right.
It's about those social safety nets.
Right.
Communication systems,
Yeah.
access to reliable information. Absolutely. Ralph for president also talked
Yeah.
about these incredible acts of kindness and heroism.
Yeah.
A teacher's husband walking home for hours with a broken foot
Wow.
after being rescued from a truck.
Wow.
A family pulling someone out of a submerged car.
Oh my gosh.
People opening up their homes to complete strangers.
Yeah, it really just underscores that in the darkest moments, you
Mhm.
find these glimmers of humanity,
Yeah.
people helping each other.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's almost like these crises
Yeah.
bring out a different side of us.
Like a reset button,
Yeah.
forcing us to reevaluate
Yeah.
what truly matters.
For sure.
So as we wrap up this
Yeah.
deep dive into the Valencia, Dana,
Right.
what's the single most important thing?
I think it's just so crucial to remember
Yeah.
that this is still unfolding.
Okay.
You know, the immediate crisis
Right.
is far from over.
Yeah.
The road to recovery is going to be long and challenging.
For-
But we're seeing these incredible stories
Yeah.
of courage, resilience.
And, as we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
these kinds of extreme weather events are becoming more frequent,
Unfortunately.
more intense
Yeah.
due to climate change.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stark reminder that we all have a responsibility
Absolutely.
to advocate for climate action,
Yes.
support efforts to prepare
Yeah.
for these disasters,
Mm-hmm.
work towards building more resilient communities.
It's not just a Spanish problem.
Right,
It's a global challenge.
right.
Requires a global response.
By learning from what happened in Valencia,
Yeah,
supporting the people affected,
for sure.
addressing the root causes of
Or-
climate change.
We can create a safer, more sustainable future.
Well said.
Thank you.
And for our listener, as you continue to follow this story,
Yeah.
I want you to think about the lessons that we can all learn from Valencia.
Mm.
How can we be better prepared,
Yeah.
not just for the big catastrophic events, but for those smaller,
Yeah.
more localized disruptions
The everyday disruption.
that are becoming increasingly common
Yeah, that are becoming more and more common.
in our changing world?
Absolutely.
It's something to think about, isn't it?
A lot to think about.
Stay informed, stay engaged,
Yeah.
and let's all do our part to build a more resilient world.